In this video, we're trying brewing gear from Snow Peak. Welcome, my name is Patrick Rolfe and this is Coffee with April. For this episode, we are testing out some new gear, a little bit of some stuff that I've basically stumbled upon in Japan. So one kind of prevalent brand, not in the world of coffee, but in the world of utility and kind of outdoor stuff is Snow Peak. So they've been around for quite some time in Japan, and we're kind of starting to see them in Europe and in the US and a little bit all over the place. They mainly do clothing, tents, whatever basically utility you need outdoor. And with outdoor also comes some coffee. And I kind of stumbled upon this equipment and I thought I wanted to try it. I've seen it for a while, but we never really used it. So basically we bought one of their drippers. Little bit of an interesting thing, just like a simple metal structure that you can easily, I guess, put in a backpack, bring with you. We're pushing a V60 filter in it here, seems to fit really well. And their grinder. And as you guys know, we're quite interested in grinders here, especially because we're in the process of making our own grinder. So we're testing a bunch of them in different kind of price ranges and different qualities. This is a little bit interesting because it actually comes out relatively expensive. So it sits about $90 to $100. I guess that's a bit depending on where you buy it, but that's at least what we paid for it, which is quite a lot of money for a grinder. And to be fair, we're not very happy with that, but a little bit more about that later. So the coffee that we're gonna brew now is this year's crop from Zewde in Ethiopia. So natural process, single varietal, single farmer. We've been very happy with it so far, and we've been working with it for the last 4 seasons. The dose that we're using is 14 grams. And the reason for that is because the grinder have a very, very hard time actually grinding. So even grinding out this, which is kind of a fairly coarse grind size, somewhere along the range of 700 microns, took about 1 minute and 30 seconds. A big part of that is to kind of build the grinder. It is really cheap. And the fact that it has ceramic burrs. So in general, this is very, very similar to, for example, a Porlex grinder, which to be fair is maybe not the best grinder on the market, but at least a Porlex grinder is a little bit cheaper. And this, because it's Snow Peak or because it has the brand on it, sits quite expensive. So we're using water that sits at 91 degrees Celsius. And we're going to divide this into 4 simple pours. And we're doing 4 because now we're back on a cone brewer, which to be fair, I haven't used in a very long time. We're gonna have a natural faster flow rate. So we wanna make sure to pour in a way where we can still have a decent amount of contact time to be able to extract as much as we can about this coffee. So what we're doing is that we're basically separating it into 4 pours, 50 grams in each pour. And we're gonna do 30 seconds in between each pour. So that basically allows the water to just go through the coffee until it's time to pour again, right? And the results we've been getting with this kind of pouring structure on cone brewers is really giving us a little bit more balance, a little bit more depth, which is what we want and what cone brewers often is kind of lacking for a lighter roasted profile. Now, a little bit back to this grinder. Again, not very easy to use. Took quite a long time to grind through, which is very far from perfect, I would argue. Just not a very easy grinder to use in general. And we find it quite interesting that you can, as a brand that Snow Peak is, the kind of quality level they're on, most of their stuff is very expensive or highly priced. A lot of it is very well made also. So it's a little bit surprising that we find this grinder coming out from them, but that's just the reality sometimes. So at 130, we're making the final pour. And that's up to 200 grams. So what we can see here is that the brewer behaves kind of similar to a normal kind of cone brewer. It definitely slows down a little bit now in the later part of the brew, definitely, but that's what most brewer would do. That is to be expected. It's just harder for the water to go through. And since we're pouring a smaller amount of water in each pour, we are going to have a slightly slower flow rate. So if I did this in 2 pours, 100, we're going to have a much faster flow rate because of the pressure that builds up because we have more liquid in that filter, right? But we're gonna let this go down, do some measurements, do some tasting, and then we'll come back to you guys with a little bit more details on what we think about this. So we're back with a little bit of a conclusion here, and the biggest challenge is basically this. So if we look at the brewer, it's a classic kind of cone brewer shape. There's no reason why you can't brew a tasty cup of coffee coming out of this, right? But what we see using the grinder, and now we're actually at one of the coarsest grind sizes that kind of allows you to do, and one that still takes you well over 1 minute to grind through, which is quite crazy. We realize and respect the fact that most likely this grinder is made to deal with darker roasted coffee, so that could be portions of it. But the main thing is that what we see in terms of grind quality is just a lot of really large particles and a lot of really, really small particles and not much of a middle range, which basically means that this brew actually stalls and ends up at a brew time well over 3 minutes. And with the same microns on, let's say, a Comandante grinder, that would be closer to 2 minutes, right? So what we have in the cup is quite a lot of dirtiness. It's still sweet, there's still balance, but none of that kind of transparency that we want is coming out. And basically, regardless of how we brew, the cups comes out quite strong, just because we have so many small particles in any range of grind size pretty much, right? So basically, bottom line is maybe not for us. I'm sure there is for someone there. It's a neat, pretty looking little product. Obviously, it's very compact, it's very low weight. A lot of that kind of obviously plays in as an important factor when it comes to any kind of utility outdoor stuff, right? Which definitely is something that we understand. It's just not the way to make tasty coffee. So you'll be better off bringing something else out for sure. But with that, we're super curious to hear more about how are you guys brewing coffee kind of in the outdoors when you're outside, hiking, summer house, wherever you kind of are, when you're outside of your home, outside of your normal coffee bar. Is there any gear that you really enjoy? We're always very interested in testing. So far, we kind of keep on gravitating back to our own filter drip packs. We feel that that's kind of the best way to make a tasty cup of coffee, more or less wherever you are, right? But we're always really interested in hearing your thoughts and opinions. We're going to take this conversation over to Patreon as well as per always. And with that, we want to thank you for watching. We want to give a special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to continue to make these videos. And we want you all to feel free to always come with suggestions and ideas on the content that you want to see, because we are doing this for you and because of you. Thank you from all of us here at April.